Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight. I ordered my figure from amyamy.com. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is about the best and cheapest place you can get imports from. They're also really fast if you choose DHL shipping. Now I find it kind of odd they would make an Arkham Knight figure. The Arkham Knight video game is not new by any stretch of imagination, and the character hasn't really been in much else since then. Yes, they incorporated him into the comics, and in the comics it's not Jason Todd, it's actually a female and I do not remember her name. And in my action figure world, I typically use the Arkham Knight as a separate character from Jason Todd, another villain in my Batman world. But this figure is going to be best of both worlds. He has interchangeable parts, so he can be both Red Hood and the Arkham Knight. So let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging. As you can see, series number 24. This is the 24th figure in the Amazing Yamaguchi line. Arkham Knight. It's from Batman, Arkham Knight the video game. Figure complex, Amazing Yamaguchi, powered by Revoltech. DC, Batman. Here's the figure in the package. Can't really see all of his accessories. I know he has interchangeable sort of chest armor, interchangeable head. Now, he doesn't come with any guns, and Arkham Knight should have a rifle and a couple pistols. Instead, he has a couple of knives and a couple of what appear to be lightsabers, some sort of laser sword, and neither one of those things was used by this guy in the game. One side of the pack, Arkham Knight. Other side, got Arkham Knight posed up with this Red Hood getup. The back side, you can see all kind of different poses and interchangeable pieces with this guy. Here are all the accessories that he will come with. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode in case that somehow helps anybody. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And I did end up getting 3 of these figures, one of which to keep unopened, and then 2 to open. One is going to be the Arkham Knight, and one will be Red Hood. Alright, now that we have this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out, and he comes with quite a bit of stuff. He's got 6 alternate hands, totaling 8 interchangeable hands, a bunch of alternate armor pieces, including chest, shin, looks like shoulder, and more, to switch him between Arkham Knight and Red Hood. He has an alternate head with Red Hood's helmet. He has 2 knives, 2 swords, a display stand, and even some replacement wrist pegs. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So we'll start off by saying I'm not a huge fan of these Amazing Yamaguchi figures. I personally just don't think they look very good. They have these really ugly joints, so you have to be very strategic to hide in certain poses. They have articulation on parts that doesn't make sense. Like, why does this guy's shin armor have to be articulated? It's just one more thing to fall off and be kind of annoying. Beyond that, I think this Arkham Knight looks really good. Some of the Amazing Yamaguchi figures are quite stylized. They have that sort of Japanimation look to them. This guy, being in a suit, having a helmet on, doesn't really suffer from that. So far, I think he's the best looking Batman-related Amazing Yamaguchi figure that I have. Now, I find it kind of odd that Amazing Yamaguchi decides to make an Arkham Knight figure. It's not going to have an Arkham Knight Batman to fight against this guy, or anything else from the Arkham universe. So this figure here is going to be a one-off. I sure prefer to add my action figures to existing teams or universes. This guy is a complete one-off figure. That being said, let's take a look at him. So here is the Arkham Knight from the video game Arkham Knight. His costume definitely reminds you of Batman. He's got the ears there. Now notice he has the blue on his face. In the game, it was sort of a computer. Like, there was glowing lights coming out of his helmet. Very hard to capture that in action figure form. This actually looks pretty cool. Coloring is not fully accurate to the game, but I like what I'm seeing. I can't wait to compare this guy with the DC Direct Arkham Knight figure. As you can see, all these metallic pieces. His ears, they look pretty good on the figure. I like it. White eyes, blue helmet. His shoulder pads have the Arkham logo. Pretty cool. It all looks very sort of robotic on this guy. He's got that signature red, white, and black camo that the entire Arkham Knight militia had. Now I can see the ball joints up here, they just look bad, and there's really no way to hide those unless his arms are up. I like what I'm seeing so far. I would say this is my favorite of the Amazing Yamaguchi figures that I have. And I'm not trying to be a hater, but there are a bunch of them I don't really like. Now, one thing that caught my attention, I mean, look at this. Why would they put trademarks, DC Comics, and white print on his black belt? Super, super noticeable. Super, super obvious. Come on. And then, just a closer look at his face, helmet, or head sculpt. And while we're taking a closer look at him, one thing's just bothering the hell out of me, his shoulders. I mean, look at those little balls between his sort of bicep area and his chest. It just looks awful. Totally reminds me of the Deathstroke figure, done the same way, and I really just hate the way that looks. It's very hard to cover that up properly. I mean, you can make it look a little less bad, but it's just always there. I hate how it's so thin and so noticeable. And then, here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's take a look at his accessories, and let's start off with the boring stuff. Before we completely dig into the accessories, I wanted to show the sort of display that came with the box. This is a piece of cardboard. It looks pretty cool, and this is definitely going to go into the back of my Arkham Knight shelf. Now let's look at its display stand. It comes in 3 separate pieces. When put together, it's going to look like this. It's got a base down here with a bunch of different slots that you can put the sort of peg into. Then it's got this post here, goes up, the bottom is hinged, it can rotate, hinge in the middle, hinge near the top. Then it has this clamp that'll hold your figure and it can rotate. Now let's look at his hands. He has a total of 8 of them. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. Here's his next pair of hands. These are some open hands. They look like they could be some grabbing or choking hands. They could probably hold something pretty large. And here's his next pair of hands. His right hand almost looks like it's a gun hand. Not to hold an actual gun, but a sort of fake gun hand. And his left hand looks like it's pointing at something. Here's his left hand, kind of just pointing. And his right hand looks like they took a point from McFarlane's book. They gave these sort of fake finger gun hands. Pew pew. It's almost like they're mocking Warner Brothers for not allowing them to have their figures come with guns anymore. And here's his final pair of hands. These are some gripping hands with trigger fingers. I imagine this figure was originally supposed to come with a couple of pistols, but Warner Brothers' no gun mandate prevents that from happening. Since we're on the subject of his trigger fingers, I was wondering if the DC Direct Arkham Knight rifle and pistols would work with this guy. But I tried to put him in there, and his hand is completely sealed. The thumb is attached to the middle finger here, just barely. I'm going to take a knife and just sort of slice that open. Once that was done, I was able to have this guy hold the DC Direct Arkham Knight's rifle. Looks pretty good, maybe a little bit too big for this figure. And here, next to the 2 pistols that came with the Red Hood figure from Arkham Knight. Now in the game, his rifle would sort of break apart into 2 pistols. You could put them together to make the rifle. These fit in and look pretty good with this guy as well. In addition to his 8 hands, he also comes with 2 replacement wrist pegs. Just in the off chance one of them breaks when swapping out the hands. It's actually very kind of them to do. I've had that happen many a time with other figures and it completely ruins the figure. Now he has these 2 knives. These look like something that would come with Slash from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We have the knife here. The handle's not bad. A little bit of sculpting detail there. Some jagged part on the blade. The blade itself is twisted. I mean, it looks good, but he never had a knife like that in the game. Here's the Arkham Knight holding his 2 knives. Now the only gripping hands he has are the trigger finger hands. Cannot imagine he was originally supposed to come with these knives. Now we have his 2 swords. He didn't use swords or knives in the game whatsoever. These swords look kind of weird. The blade is red. I mean, it looks good, but definitely not usual. and the base here. A little bit of scope and detail on the handle. And here he is, holding both the swords. They look okay with him, but I don't associate Arkham Knight with swords. So the next thing to look at is going to be his transformation from the Arkham Knight to Red Hood. And the way I see it, we have about 4 different looks you can give this guy. Number 1, we have the Arkham Knight in his sort of blue armor. Then we could have the Arkham Knight with the red armor. Then you could have Red Hood with the red Arkham Knight armor. And you could also have Red Hood with the bat symbol on his chest. As you can see, here are all the different interchangeable pieces laid out. Quite complex, quite a bit of stuff, but it gives some pretty cool different display options. Let's start off by looking at the standard Arkham Knight. So here's the Arkham Knight in his most traditional attire. He's got the blue chest armor, the blue armor on his biceps, little blue sliver here, but he still has the red, white, and black camo outfit. And here's the Arkham Knight with his red armor. I don't think the Arkham Knight actually looked this way in the game. I think that was later when he had his Arkham Knight helmet off and the Red Hood helmet on. But I think it actually looks pretty good on the Arkham Knight. It matches his red, black, and white camo armor. He's got the red chest piece, red sort of bicep area, red sort of light on his armor, red shoulder pads. Here's the Red Hood in the red Arkham Knight armor. And finally, here he is with the Batman symbol on his chest. This is going to be Red Hood in my collection, and then the blue figure will be Arkham Knight. That is why I got 2 of these figures to open. They're going to be completely different characters in my action figure collection. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, he's standing at about 6.3 inches tall, which can translate to about 16 centimeters. And if you go to the top of the ears, about 6.5 inches tall. Now let's look at his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side, up and down about that far. It can also kind of do that. Can't tilt his head from one side to the other. Give him a good amount of personality. His articulation, a ball joint at the bottom of the head, as well as another one at the bottom of the neck. Shoulders on a ball joint, and it's probably about the most hideous thing on the figure, especially when you extend it in certain directions. You can just see how thin it is up there. So it's a ball joint. It also has rotation at sort of the bicep area. It has rotation at the base as well. His shoulder pads here, they can kind of move around to get out of the way as needed. He's got a bicep cut below that. Double jointed elbows. They go in quite far with rotation at either the bicep and the forearm. His wrist here can rotate and it's hinged. In his waist, looks like we have ball joint rotate, go forward and back. Goes forward pretty far. His legs, pretty much just a splits. It's a ball joint, although you can't really see in there too good. He's got rotation at the thigh. Looks kind of like a single jointed knee, but it goes back considerably more than 90 degrees. He does have a little bit of rotation down here at sort of the ankle area. Now, his holster pieces, his weapons, his ammunition, as well as his shins, they can move out of the way. There's really no need for that, but in certain poses, it can be nice to get him out of the way. His ankle here goes forward and back, kind of rotate a little bit, can tilt all kind of different directions. And there is toe articulation. So to talk about his articulation for a minute, it is very impressive. He is super articulated, but a lot of it's a pain in the ass. And with a lot of it, he'll expose these horrible looking joints, in particular his shoulders and his elbows. You have to work really hard to cover those things up, and I find that really annoying. Yes, I appreciate some of the stuff he can do, but if you have to work really hard to strategically hide his joints, that is just not how an action figure should be. Here's Arkham Knight on the Arkham Knight shelf with his militia around him. And here's Red Hood in his base or lair. Here's a closer look at the Arkham Knight in a ruined abandoned building. His Arkham Knight militia have been just wreaking havoc on Gotham City, and this is the end result. Now let's check him out, compared with some other action figures. Starting off with some other Arkham Knight figures and some other Red Hood figures. Here's the Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight next to the DC Collectibles Arkham Knight. I'll tell you, I prefer the DC Collectibles figure. He looks a little more normal, although his articulation is very stiff and subpar. This Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight is the second Arkham Knight they've made in the 6 and 7 inch scale. These are the only two out there. Now, the Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight is technically Jason Todd from the Arkham Knight video game, but like I said before, in my action figure world, I use Arkham Knight as a completely different villain. They did incorporate Arkham Knight into the comics, and it wasn't Jason Todd, so that's kind of what I have going for mine. Here's Arkham Knight next to all of my Arkham Knight Militia figures. Most of these guys are customs and a couple of figure substitutes. Now, these guys are not scaled up with the Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight. He's a little bit more than 6 inches tall. These guys are meant to fit in with my DC Collectibles Arkham Knight collection. Here's the Amazing Yamaguchi Red Hood next to the DC Collectibles Arkham Knight as Red Hood. Pretty similar figures, different scale. Once again, I definitely prefer the DC Collectibles figure. And here, next to the DC Collectibles Arkham Knight Red Hood. This is Red Hood from the DLC that took place after the Arkham Knight storyline. Here are all of my different Jason Todd as Red Hood figures. These figures are by McFarlane Toys, DC Direct, DC Collectibles, Mattel, and Amazing Yamaguchi. Here he is, next to several more Jason Todd figures. From left to right, we have the Mattel Jason Todd as Red Hood, but he's not in his traditional biker outfit. Then, DC Direct Jason Todd as Batman. In the center, the Amazing Yamaguchi Red Hood. Then a DC Direct Jason Todd as Hush. And then a Mafex Jason Todd as Hush. Here are a couple of Jason Todd and Civilian Tire figures. On the left, we have a 7-inch scale McFarlane Jason Todd. And on the right, that one is a 6-inch scale and uses a Hasbro Marvel Legends body. Then, next to a couple of Mattel DC Universe Classics Dick Grayson as Robin figures. Way back in the day, they made two of these guys, two different head variations. I always used the one on the left as Dick Grayson and the one on the right as Jason Todd. And now, next to a couple of DC Direct Joker as Red Hood figures. And here he is, next to the Red Hood gang. Now let's check him out, next to some other Amazing Yamaguchi figures. I only collect the Batman-related stuff. Here they are, next to the recently released Amazing Yamaguchi Joker. And here's my entire collection of Amazing Yamaguchi figures. Batman, Deathstroke, Joker, Arkham Knight and Red Hood, and all three variations of Harley Quinn. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how they fit in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix them with. Since they are Amazing Yamaguchi figures, they're typically the 6-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of these smaller action figure lines I collect, and work way larger. Here they are, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. And here they are, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. Then, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here, with some Mafex figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here they are, next to some Mezco 112 Collective figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestling figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And here, with some NECA figures. And now, next to some McFarlane Toys. Then, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And here they are, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. And finally, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures. Overall, these are some pretty good looking figures. These are by far my favorite of the Amazing Yamaguchi offerings that I have. This guy looks pretty much like Arkham Knight should look, not nearly as stylized as some of the other figures. I do have some problems with his joints, mainly the shoulder and elbow joints. They just look hideous in so many poses. This guy's accessories are plentiful, so many different display options, but what he's missing are some guns, and that is not Revoltech's fault, that's Warner Brothers' fault. Sculpt and paint job are great. Articulation, I mean, they're super articulated, but I'm really not a fan of their articulation style. If I were to rate these guys, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. The highest rating of my Amazing Yamaguchi collection. As it's no secret that I'm not a big fan of these guys, but these guys here have surpassed my expectations. They are better than any of the other Amazing Yamaguchi figures that I have. I think they look fantastic. My real issue is some of the joints and some of the clunky articulation. For a super articulated figure, it just frustrates me how some of the parts of them move. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.